So then how does the Quran relate to these two aspects, which is physical healing and mental wellness?
Physical healing is a very established practice within our tradition, and most of the vast majority of scholars recognize that the Quran is also healing for physical illnesses as well. And as you said, it certainly should be incorporated in people who've got chronic issues, chronic disease, or even acute issues. They've got a cold or whatever. Certainly, reciting Quran. I mean, one of the clear evidences is the Hadith Sahih of the companions who went they're coming back from an expedition and they came across a town that refused to host them. But then the chief obviously gets sick. He got stung by a scorpion, and they said to them, "Do you have any ruqya?" Because they had a concept of ruqya, which was a lot of incantation, sometimes unintelligible sort of kind of chanting, or obviously invoking other idols. And so then obviously the companions are like, well, we have the Quran. And so they made their ijtihad and they recited Surah Al-Fatiha and he was cured. And the Prophet ﷺ said, how did you know that this was ruqya? How did you know that this was actually healing? So that's one of the main evidences. Mental illness as well. We talk about a lot this issue of mental illness as a separate category. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah himself actually divides ailments of the heart into two categories. He says one that has to do with more akhlaq, which is like arrogance, jealousy, greed. These are diseases of the heart, but not mental illnesses as we understand them. But then he also mentions the category of what we would call today mental illnesses: huzn, ghadab, khawf, like anxiety, depression, anger issues. And he says, interestingly, that the issues of huzn and sadness, they're a bit more biologically rooted. He doesn't use the term biology, but a bit more naturally rooted. And so therefore its treatment can come from nature itself as well. So there's that recognition of the mental illness having a physical component to it that requires the natural asbab. But obviously from our Prophet ﷺ, we know that there's du'as that he would prescribe for people who are going through for instance. Anxiety, exactly. So Allahumma inni abduk ibn abdik, this du'a, this was prescribed for people who were dealing with anxiety as well. So there's certainly those both approaches there. And the Quran can certainly be a healing in that regard as well. The way we break it down for mental illness in particular, when we talk about huzn, depression, and all the related emotional states, and anxiety and all the related emotional states, is we look at the various different discourses of the Quran. So what are the meanings of the Quran? What's the content of the Quran? You can categorize them into the names and attributes of Allah, stories, descriptions of the righteous and the wicked, descriptions of the afterlife, and rulings. And we say no matter where you land on the Quran, we can find that kind of therapeutic potential in the way that the Quran describes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his names and attributes. And mashallah, there's amazing series that you have available on YouTube as well of the names and attributes of Allah and how they impact a person's heart and the very clear healing potential that's there. And so there's the Quranic descriptions of Allah.